Welcome back. It's now time to go in depth. August 1 is celebrated as Emancipation Day throughout the British Caribbean, the day when hundreds of thousands of slaves finally got their freedom nearly 200 years ago. But should Great Britain and other slave-holding European powers pay reparations to the descendants of those slaves, even after all this time? I sat down with Professor Verene Shepherd, the chair of Jamaica's Reparations Commission, to find out. We're talking about reparations, and it's Emancipation Day, so this entire topic is timely.
It is timely.
What are reparations?
The simplest definition that I can come up with, and that's because of my, I was telling you off air that I traveled to Haiti, and all over there was the term, you know, and I realized that really in everyday language it is to repair the damage, in its simplest definition, to repair the damage. And in terms of what we are doing now, it is to repair the damage done to people of African descent by the system of enslavement.
I was reading where upon emancipation, the British slave owners were paid a particular sum of money. Tell us about that.
In order for the British government to be able to free our ancestors, they had to satisfy the enslavers' call for reparation. They didn't call it that, but when you're talking about compensation for loss of so-called property, that's what it really was. So they demanded that they would only agree to freedom if the British state compensated them for the loss of the enslaved Africans who they claimed as their own. So they were paid 20 million British pounds, which in today's money, I think some people have put it as high as 200 billion British pounds right now. So part of the reparation demand is for at least that to be given back to the Caribbean. Now Jamaica's share of that would be 30%.
And of course, the slaves were in no position to demand at that time their own reparations.
Because we're in the emancipation season, I think we have to agree that their protest movements, from the moment they were taken from Africa, even before they embarked from Africa, they were insisting on claiming freedom, because freedom for them was that was their condition. So on this side of the world, the various wars of resistance by Taki and others, I think would have been a part of saying, this is wrong, you need to do something about this. We cannot be in this condition. So in a sense, that was maybe a non-financial action. We have to connect our present state to that moment in 34, because the enslaved got what? Their freedom, but no land. They didn't get, you know, automatic employment. When they did, the wages were low, the labor relations were poor, and racism, in a sense, was intensified, because if you had to abolish the whip, they felt they had to find something else to control black people. So our racist society, the hierarchy of class and color, all these are legacies of slavery. And we are calling, as a reparation commission, for Europeans to repair our society and do all they can to eliminate racism and to develop our countries in the way that we would like to see our countries develop.
You've described how emancipation played out in the British territories, but it was a different situation in the French, Dutch, and Spanish territories, particularly in Haiti, where they had a rebellion that led to their emancipation per se.
Yes, yes. Haiti is very critical in our discussion of emancipation and our discussion of reparation, because it's almost like the tables were turned in the case of Haiti. Instead of the British state, the French state paying the French enslavers for the so-called loss of that property because the enslaved took their freedom, France demanded from the enslaved compensation. If we are going to recognize your freedom, France told them, you have to pay us. So they demanded 150 million French francs from Haiti.
And they paid up until the early 19th century, the 20th century.
They didn't finish paying it until the early 20th century. Eventually it was reduced to 90 million. But nevertheless, even that was a huge sum. So when we're going to call Haiti the poor country and the poorest country and whatever else, we must think about the impact of that drain of resources from an already poor country to Europe. And so part of the demand of reparation is for France to pay that back. In 2004, President Aristide had put the money in today's money at 21 billion US dollars. Think about what that could do for Haiti.
Mm-hmm. But what about the arguments of debt forgiveness, debt cancellation that has already taken place? France, for example, has argued they have already given budgetary support to Haiti and cancelled a portion of their debt.
But France alone can't decide that what I have done is enough, that debt write-off or whatever aid they have given is enough. How many years were they in Haiti? What Haiti used to be called the Pearl of the Antilles, the French Antilles. How much did they gain from Haiti over those years? That's what they should calculate to see whether what they have done so far is a drop in the bucket or not. Certainly they haven't paid back the 21 billion, the 90 million French francs, so that is still on the table.
But what is there beyond a financial settlement?
First step, we need an apology. That's the first step. To me, that's so basic. I don't understand why Europeans won't apologize. Or maybe I do, because apology would accept liability, and then the next step would be a court case. So they have stopped short of apologizing. What we're saying is that they could fix our societies, right? Allow us to also embark on the development path. So it's debt write-off, it's building schools and social infrastructure, the hospitals, fix the roads, and really put us in a place where we can, be on the path of development. So reparation now is being placed within the development discourse, and this is where we need to go. Right now it's being put at 7.5 trillion British pounds for the entire CARICOM region, okay? Jamaica's share of that would have been about 3 trillion pounds. So that could pay off our debt right away, by the way. So we're saying, let's see, is this a reasonable sum, Yes, you can't pay for pain and suffering and blah, blah, but let's start with that. Then work out how you are going to repair Caribbean society that was left shattered and fractured because of your action. And I suppose if negotiation fails, we have to go to the International Court of Justice, at least for some kind of ruling.
Why reparations now? It's been almost 200 years since emancipation, over 200 years since these wrongs were committed. Why now? Isn't it too late to even make any kind of claim?
It's later than it should have been, I agree with you. But now that we have started the movement, I would say let's keep going. It's late because it would have been better if the victims themselves were around to claim it. Because you know that the successful ones, the most successful ones, are the ones where the victims actually make the case. But we have to try. We have to try. I think maybe at the moment of emancipation, it could not have been negotiated because the British were still in charge, okay? But 1962 should have been the moment at which the negotiation should have been made. But that wasn't done. What are you going to do? You just have to carry on. Something hopeful has happened this week, though. The 5 South Koreans have claimed, successfully pressed for reparation from Japan, and they've got it. No, those 5 people aren't alive. Their descendants pressed the claim. So now we have some kind of precedent to say, well, the victims don't have to be around for you to claim reparation. And some of the people, the Jewish people who are now getting reparation, they are not the ones who went through the Holocaust, but they are still getting money.
There have been calls for reparations made for many, many years. You mentioned the Rastafarian movement. There have been movements in America and other countries, and they haven't really gained traction. I feel like the reason the European powers that be ignore this call for reparation and they don't take it seriously is because the masses in these countries don't take it seriously themselves.
Yes, because they have been so miseducated. They have been educated to feel that they shouldn't say they're black people and that they're African people. Do a poll among Jamaicans, ask how many of you are Africans, and I'm sure you'll have few people say they're Africans. And yet other ethnic groups who are here, even if they are born here, they still say, I am Indian, I am Chinese. How many of us say, I am African? How do you not become African? How do you not remain African? Your ancestors were Africans. The law firm that the CARICOM heads have consulted, not hired, not contracted, just consulted for an opinion. The law firm has said they have laid out what they would need should they be asked to press the case, let's say in front of the International Court of Justice or using the Committee for the Elimination of Racial Discrimination, using that. They say they will need heavy documentation, which means research, and it means a view about how the region feels about it. But if you don't know your history, you're not going to know why you should jump on board the reparation train. And we don't have a situation in our region where Caribbean history is mandatory. People could leave school having no idea at all about what we're talking about.
All right, well, thank you, Professor Shepherd, for joining us. It was a lovely discussion.
It was a pleasure being here. Thank you for giving me this opportunity.
And that's it for In Depth, but don't go away. Sports is next.